What's going on, guys? Charles Weinraub, AKA the Handsome Homebuyer. Ask and thy shall receive part 2. Like we said last time, we have a ton of great stuff going on our text platform. Enter the text platform number up here. If you guys have any questions regarding to anything real estate related or anything I know in general, we're talking construction, permits, fix and flip, commercial development, anything and everything out there, hit me up. It's me directly. I get back to people twice a day. It is not a bot, like I said before. It is me, Handsome, in person, live, and direct. And with that said, we are going through the second part of the most popular FAQs, frequently asked investment questions. Hit us up, leave some comments down below. Any questions you need, we're happy to answer for you. How many years of training do you need before you do your first deal? Now, my opinion, it took me almost 4 years before I was ready to even make an offer. And then it took me an entire year to find a first property. So I was in the mix before buying my first house, 4 to 5 years. Now, is that a lot? Yes. Do you have to do that? No. I was finding myself during that process. But if you are working with a great mentor like Carl and you're reading, you're studying, you're out there every day like I was, 7 days a week while also working a full-time job, it is still going to take you an absolute minimum of a year, in my opinion, before you're ready to go out there. Now, what I want people to understand is it doesn't matter where you are at halftime or in the first quarter. It only matters where you are at the end of the game. And what I mean by that is this. If your goal is in the next 10 years to buy 10 rental properties, this way you can replace your income, and you study and train for 4 years, you could still buy 10 houses in the next 6 years. The most important thing to succeed long-term is to spend the time getting educated at the beginning so that it'll pay off in the end. So be patient, take your time, and get the education. Where do I get data for comparable sales? Now, depending on the market where you're in New York here, there's a bunch of different software sites that I use in order to get data. One is the MLS. You either have to be a realtor or know a realtor to have access to it. But Stratus here in Long Island, New York is an unbelievable tool that has a ton of information on properties that were bought, sold, under contract, etc. Here in Long Island, there's a product called GeoData. That's software that also gives you a tremendous amount of information. You have Property Shark. There's a lot of tools out there that give you the data, but data is super, super, super important. You cannot possibly make informed decisions on what to invest in and what pricing will be without that information. So make sure wherever you are in that market, you sign up for multiple software or whatever it is so that you have the ability to get the data. You can't rely on somebody else giving you the data. You have to get it yourself. Should I pay for leads? My opinion, I don't have a problem paying for leads. Now, leads can come in many different ways. You can buy lists of vacant houses or houses that have violations on them or high equity owners or whatever it might be. You do that. There's also ways to extract them via the MLS and other data providers and sources. But in general, we're flipping houses here. So it makes money. So if you have to pay for leads, obviously you want to bet the quality of the leads over a 3 to 12 month period. But I have no problem buying leads. As a matter of fact, it makes it a lot more efficient than you going out there and getting them yourself. LLC or corporation? First thing, let me say, I am not an accountant, I am not an attorney, so I may or may not know what I'm talking about. But traditionally, what I see other investors doing and what I do is when you're buying houses, people usually buy them in an LLC structure. All right, there's another video that I had posted that basically outlines the difference between LLCs and corporations and why you would use them in the structure. But a lot of investors do when they're really active in the spaces, they have an S Corp up top, they have LLCs underneath. The S Corp's the owner of the LLCs own the properties, money flows up, adequate asset protection, flexibility. That's the way it's usually done. But definitely consult your attorney and accountant in your area before doing either. Do I open an entity as soon as I get into real estate? Don't be in a rush to open up an entity. Open up an entity, whether it's an LLC or an S Corp, is something that can be done very, very, very quickly regardless of which state you're in. What I always tell people is don't spend the money until you have the deal. As soon as you have the deal, you can put it under contract in your name and you can assign it to the entity, or you can tell them I'm buying it in an entity that's going to be named later on. There's a lot of different ways you could do this, but once you have the deal, that's the time to open up the entity, because otherwise if you open it up before and you have a tax ID number, you're filing tax returns and paying money even though you haven't done any deals, even though you haven't made any money. So wait until you get that first deal and then open up your entity. Can I buy a house without a certificate of occupancy? And the answer to that question is absolutely. I do it all the time. Here at Captain Permit, we help people obtain COs for properties all the time. In Long Island, New York, if you have a property that was built prior to 1937, which is when building code was implemented, they didn't have COs before that. So you didn't have permits for the house, certificate of occupancy for the house. So you can buy them, they can be very profitable. You'd have to understand that there's a legalization process, so that takes time, and there's permits and fees in order to do that, which obviously costs money. So time and money, time is money. You can do it, but make sure you budget correctly. Go out there, get a good deal, get it done. Should I buy an investment property or any property in my personal name? The answer to that question is absolutely not. You never, ever, ever want to close on a property in your own personal name. Or if you have to, you want to always move it into an entity for liability purposes at some point. I, myself, even if I had a house that I lived in, which I don't, but let's say I did, I would own that in an LLC. I would not have any property in my own personal name. Do I care how much a wholesaler makes when wholesaling me a property? The answer to that question is absolutely not, and I hope they make millions of dollars on every deal because I want everybody to make money. If it's too good for one person, it's not good for anybody. But investors, this is what I encourage you to do. I do deals with tons of wholesalers. It's an unbelievable part of my business model, and they're great people and super fun to deal with, and it's mutually beneficial. I never even look at what they have the property under contract for or what they closed on it for because I don't care. Just as long as I can make my money and my pro forma makes sense to me, I don't care if they make $10,000 or $10 million or everything or anything in between. Best thing to do is not focus on counting other people's money and just make sure the deal works for you. Is investing easy? There's a big miscommunication or misconception, I should say, or both, that you watch these shows on HGTV and it seems very easy. In 30 minutes, the house goes from being a total disaster to being beautiful. Everything goes horribly wrong. They spend way too much money, but still they end up making a ton of money at the back end. Investing is not easy. It is a skill that can be learned to a certain extent, but certain people are innately better at it than others, right? But at the same time, it's not easy. You have to make sure that you spend the time, get educated, do the right thing, be disciplined, don't make emotional decisions, and it can be an amazing career, it can be a great retirement vehicle, it can be a great side hustle to make extra money, but it is definitely not easy. Thank you very much, really appreciate you guys. Please like, subscribe, click the bell, do all that stuff, and again, don't forget the text platform, leave the comments below. I always get back to everybody, appreciate it, we'll see you on the next one.